I knew something was off the second I walked into my parents' house for Sunday dinner and saw champagne chilling in the fridge. We're not a champagne kind of family. We do pot roast and iced tea, maybe a cheap red if it's someone's birthday. But there it was, chilling in an ice bucket like we were at a wedding reception. And right next to it, a stack of moving boxes tucked behind the kitchen island. I didn't say anything at first. I just noted it, like the way a dog knows a storm's coming before the thunder hits. My name's Jack. I'm 34, live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and until that night, I owned a 3-bedroom home on the edge of town. Keyword, owned. Quick note, before we go any further, tell us where you're watching from. We were halfway through dinner when Chelsea dropped the bomb, right in between bites of green bean casserole. She looked across the table and said, like it was already decided, "I'll start moving in next week." "That okay with you, Jack?" The room went silent. Then my mom clapped her hands like we were announcing an engagement. My dad nodded, smiling like he'd just closed a big deal. Nobody looked at me. I cleared my throat. "Moving in?" Chelsea gave this little laugh, like I was being cute. "Well, yeah. Most of my stuff's already boxed up in your dad's garage. We figured since you've been helping me out so much anyway, it just makes sense. Why keep paying rent when we've got space right here?" "We?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "Don't be dramatic," my mom jumped in. "You've been so generous with Chelsea, buying groceries, covering part of her rent. It's time she caught a break." That's when I knew this wasn't spontaneous. This had been planned. The champagne, the boxes. The way my dad kept checking his watch, like he was waiting for a big moment. They were in on it. Chelsea leaned in. "You've been such a rock, Jack. I know I can build something stable with you, but I wasn't even consulted, not asked, told." I reached down beside my chair and pulled out the manila envelope I brought with me, slid it across the table. "What's this?" my dad asked. "Not keys," I said, standing up. "It's the signed agreement." I sold the house. Everyone froze. Chelsea's face went pale. My mom's jaw dropped. "Wait, what do you mean sold?" I grabbed my jacket. "I mean, I'm not your solution, and I'm not your safety net." Dinner was great. "Good night." I walked out to the sound of chairs scraping, voices rising, and one thing was clear. This setup just got flipped. "Wait, you what?" Chelsea's voice cracked so loud it bounced off the ceiling. She shot up from her seat, nearly knocking her glass over. "You sold the house?" Without telling me, I turned halfway at the door, calm as I could manage. "I told the owner. That's me." "You've got to be kidding me," she said, storming toward me. "After everything I've been through, after how much I've relied on you, after how much you said you'd be there for me." "You relied on my wallet," I said. "Let's be clear about that." Chelsea's face twisted like I'd slapped her. "Wow, real nice. So, what was all this then? Some sick joke? You played along, helped me plan everything, just to humiliate me in front of your whole family?" My mom jumped in, voice full of shock and disgust. "Jack, this is heartless. Absolutely heartless. You didn't say anything to us. No heads up, no warning. Just drop a bomb like that and walk out." "You didn't ask me a thing either," I snapped. "You all made plans around me like I was just a piece of furniture." My dad stood up next. "Selling the house is an impulsive move, son. Real immature. There were other ways to handle this." "Like what?" "Keep bleeding money until I crash and burn?" I asked. Aunt Trish, quiet all through dinner, cleared her throat. She looked nervous, eyes darting between faces. "Honestly," she said, "we were going to start moving Chelsea's stuff in while you were at work Tuesday." The whole room froze again. I looked at her, then at Chelsea. "You were gonna move her in behind my back?" "It wasn't like that," Chelsea snapped. "We were just trying to make things easier. You always get overwhelmed by details." "No, Chelsea. I get overwhelmed by bills." I took a breath and stepped closer to the table, pulling a folded piece of paper from my jacket. I dropped it on the placemat like a dealer throwing down a losing hand. Roof repairs, 12 grand. Waterline replacement, 9. HVAC died 2 months ago. 6, do the math. I've been drowning. My dad looked at the paper but didn't touch it. "You never said it was that bad." "Because the few times I hinted at it, Mom called me negative, and you said I needed to man up. So I did. I made a decision, one I could afford." Chelsea folded her arms. So now I'm what? Screwed? I gave my landlord notice, Jack. You've got their house, I said, pointing at my parents, and your apartment. It's still yours until the 1st, right? That's not the point, she barked. You just abandoned me. In my worst moment, no, you gambled I wouldn't say no, I shot back. You counted on me folding. Again, my mom got up too now, hands shaking. She'll be homeless, Jack. Do you understand what you've done? You mean what you tried to do. This whole thing, it wasn't about me. It was about controlling the outcome, making decisions for me without asking Dad, pointed toward the floor like he was laying down law. This isn't how family treats each other. Exactly, I said. Family doesn't corner you. Family doesn't dump their problems at your door and call it love. Chelsea tried again, softer this time. Jack, please, can we just talk about this? You're being cold. You think I'm cold because I stopped being convenient, I said. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off with 2 words. It's done. I looked each of them in the eye. I'm not asking for permission. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm telling you, this conversation is over. I grabbed the door handle and stepped out before anyone else could speak. I didn't slam it, didn't yell. I just left them with the truth, and they didn't know what to do with it. By the time I made it back to my driveway, my phone was already blowing up. First call, Aunt Trish. Jack, honey, what were you thinking? Chelsea's in tears. You blindsided her? I hit decline. Second call, my cousin Amber. You can't just kick a woman out like that. Everyone's talking about it. Decline, then a number I didn't even recognize. I answered, thinking maybe it was the buyers for the house. A man's voice. Hey, Jack. This is Phil, your dad's bowling buddy. Look, I don't know the whole story, but she's a sweet girl. You can't leave her hanging. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I opened Facebook just to see what the hell was happening. And there it was, Chelsea's post. Sometimes people show their true colors. I trusted someone to help me, and instead, they sold the roof over my head. Guess I'm starting over. Again, no names, but my name didn't have to be there. The comments told the story. Stay strong, girl. You deserve better. Some men don't know what they have. And right under it, my mom's comment. We're proud of you for staying positive, Chelsea. Things happen for a reason. Proud of her? She was making it sound like I was an abuser. I typed a comment, then deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. My chest felt tight. At work the next morning, people kept giving me weird looks. My manager, normally upbeat, barely said good morning. Around lunch, one of the junior guys from accounting came up to my desk holding a pamphlet. Hey, I heard about Chelsea. My church runs this housing program. Temporary rooms, food included. Maybe you can connect her? I stared at him. You think I evicted her? He looked down at his shoes. That's what it sounded like online. I took the pamphlet and set it face down on my desk. I didn't evict her, and I don't need your church's program. I texted Chelsea right then. Stop posting lies about me. Take it down. She replied 3 dots at a time, then finally, you sold the house I needed. What would you call it? I clenched the phone so hard my fingers went white. And through all of it, everyone saw me as stable, the guy with a good job, the one who could handle it. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody asked what I needed. They just assumed I'd keep writing checks, keep bailing people out, keep carrying the weight. I opened Chelsea's text again and stared at it. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I opened my banking app, read numbers, credit at the ceiling, savings gone. My stomach turned. At that moment, I realized I wasn't just fighting Chelsea. I was fighting the version of myself that let this happen. Mr. Reliable, Mr. Yes, Mr. Sure I can cover it. The office buzzed around me, phones ringing, printers spitting out paper. But it all felt muted, like I was underwater. My phone vibrated again. A voicemail from my mom. Jack, call me back. We need to talk about Chelsea. She has nowhere to go. I didn't listen to the rest. I shut my laptop, grabbed my coat, and walked out into the parking lot. The cold air hit my face like a slap. For the first time, I felt how heavy the last few years had been. On my wallet, on my back, on my chest. And for the first time, I wasn't going to apologize for putting it down. I had packing paper in one hand and a cereal bowl in the other when I heard the knock. It wasn't polite, it was sharp. 3 quick bangs, no pause. I didn't even bother peeking through the blinds. I already knew. I opened the door, and sure enough, Mom, Dad, and Chelsea were standing there like a damn intervention crew. No smiles, no, "Can we come in?" Just walked straight past me like they still owned the place. The living room was half packed, boxes everywhere, cabinets open, tape rolls on the counter. The air smelled like dust and cardboard. Mom looked around and made a noise like she'd swallowed vinegar. "You're really going through with this?" I went back to wrapping dishes. "Looks that way." She stepped closer. "You've always been cold, Jack. Even as a kid. You shut people out when things get uncomfortable." I kept my hands moving. "No, I shut people out when they don't respect me." Chelsea sat down on one of the boxes like she belonged there. "You're seriously going to throw away your whole family just to save a few bucks?" Dad spoke up then, tone hard. "Family helps family. That's how we do things." I stacked 2 wrapped bowls and moved to the next. "I've been helping. I've done my part, and then some. I've been covering bills none of you even know about. For years, you didn't ask for help," Mom said. "We thought you were fine." "That's the problem," I said. "Everyone thinks I'm fine. Stable. The one who doesn't need anything. So, you just pile more on." Chelsea crossed her arms. "I had nowhere else to go. You had your apartment. You had their house. You had options. Not good ones." I looked up finally. "Yeah, neither is selling my house, but I did it. Because I need breathing room. I need stability. I need a minute where I'm not living paycheck to paycheck with no safety net." They all went quiet. I grabbed another bowl and started wrapping again. "I need peace. That's what I need, and none of you can give it to me if I stay here." Nobody moved, no yelling, no crying, just silence. It hit me then. They weren't shocked I was angry. They were shocked I wasn't apologizing for it. They were used to the version of me that bent, that nodded along and paid up and stayed quiet. This version, the one stating facts without guilt, they didn't know what to do with him. "Are you done?" I asked, not looking up. Nobody answered. They left without saying goodbye. An hour later, I was in the middle of bubble wrapping glassware when the front door opened again. "Jack?" I looked over my shoulder. It was Dorothy, family friend since forever. My mom's old neighbor, retired nurse, no filter. She walked in carrying a 6-pack of craft beer and a bag of kettle chips. "Heard you made waves," I smirked. "That obvious, huh?" She popped a beer and handed me one. "You said no." Finally. That takes guts most people don't have. I nodded, cracked mine open. She raised hers. "To not being everyone's doormat." We clinked bottles. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like the villain. I felt like someone who finally chose himself. Dorothy finished her beer, gave me a firm squeeze on the shoulder, and said, "Get your ducks in a row, Jack. They need to hear it straight." 2 days later, they heard it. I didn't do it at my parents' place. Too much history, too many escape routes. I held the meeting in my living room, boxes still stacked, walls half bare. Folding chairs, no snacks, no distractions, just facts. My parents, Chelsea, Aunt Trish, Uncle Ron, even a few cousins showed up, probably expecting another intervention. What they got was something else. On one side of the room, me, Dorothy, Barb, my financial advisor, and Thomas, my best friend since 10th grade. I didn't stand, I didn't give a speech, I just opened a folder, pulled out the first page, and handed it to my dad. Roofing estimate, $12,000 paid in full. He glanced at it, eyebrows tightening. I handed the next sheet to my mom. A waterline replacement, $9,000, paid in full. To Chelsea, I gave the HVAC repair order. $6,000, had to finance that one. Still paying it off, I passed out bank statements, checking, savings, credit card balances, read across the board. "This," I said, "is what I was carrying while you were planning a surprise move-in." Chelsea rolled her eyes and tossed the paper onto the floor. "This is just creative accounting. You're making it sound worse than it is." Barb spoke up, calm and clear. "It's not creative. I've been working with Jack for over a year. These numbers are accurate. He was on track until his expenses tripled." Uncle Ron leaned back in his chair, staring at Chelsea. "What's your income again?" She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Your income. Job, benefits, side gigs, What are you bringing in? Chelsea hesitated. I'm between jobs right now. Ron nodded slowly. So, you're not paying rent, not covering groceries, no income, and you still expected to move into his house? Mom stepped in, defensive. She just needed help getting back on her feet. No, Dorothy cut in. She needed help she couldn't provide for herself. And you were all too eager to volunteer Jack's wallet for it. Aunt Trish crossed her arms. Why does it always have to be Jack? Why not me? Or you, Carol? She asked, looking at my mom. Why weren't you offering her your guest room? Silence. Thomas leaned forward. I watched my brother lose everything doing this. Took in his girlfriend when she was down bad. 5 years later, she still had no job, no plan, and he was bankrupt. Barb added, when someone becomes dependent on one person, it creates imbalance. It damages both sides, financially, emotionally. It's not generosity anymore. It's pressure. Chelsea's voice cracked. So I'm a burden now? That's what we're calling me? No, I said, meeting her eyes. You became a burden when you assumed I owed you something just because I could help. And when you told everyone I kicked you out, you made me a villain for protecting my own life. Uncle Ron turned to my parents. Did you two even ask him before making that plan? They looked at each other. My mom spoke, quiet now. We thought he'd be okay with it. He always is. I folded my papers back into the folder and leaned back. I didn't call this meeting to fight. I just needed everyone to see the full picture, not the Facebook version, the truth. Nobody had anything left to say. Even Chelsea looked deflated. For the first time in months, I wasn't defending myself alone. And damn, it felt good to let the facts do the talking. They came back a week later. Same knock, same faces, different script. I opened the door and saw my mom holding a folder like she was about to present a damn business proposal. My dad stood beside her, arms folded. Chelsea lagged behind, looking tired but too proud to act like she needed anything. I didn't invite them in, I just stepped aside. They walked in anyway. Mom got straight to it. We've been talking, and we think there's a fair compromise here. I kept my arms crossed. Let's hear it. She doesn't move in, Dad said, but you help her get on her feet. First and last month's rent. You're doing well now, Jack. She's had a string of bad luck. Be the bigger person. I didn't respond right away. I walked to the counter, pulled out a folder of my own, and laid it flat. This, I said, is my new mortgage. Townhouse. Smaller, more efficient. Payments are nearly 40% less. I move in next week. I turned the paper toward them so they could see it. Dad squinted. You already bought another place? Yes, because this one was draining me. I was working extra weekends just to keep the lights on. So, no, I'm not floating anyone else's rent. Chelsea rolled her eyes. So, you get a fresh start, but I don't? Nice. You want a fresh start? I asked, reaching into the drawer. Here. I slid a business card across the table toward her. There's an entry-level opening in our marketing department. It's admin heavy, but it's a foot in the door. Full-time, benefits, starting Monday if you want it. She stared at the card like it was a dead fish. I have a degree in communications, and this is a communications company. You want help? Take the job, Mom sighed. Jack, this is cold. No, I said. This is clear. I'm not writing checks anymore. I'm offering opportunities. If that's not enough, then you're not really looking to stand on your own. Chelsea looked away. It's just insulting. It's just reality. I started stacking the last few papers, making it obvious the conversation was over. Dad muttered, This isn't how we raised you. No, I said. You raised me to be responsible. I just finally applied it to myself. I walked toward the front door and opened it. You know your way out. They filed out, slower this time. Chelsea was the last to move. She hesitated near the card still sitting on the counter. I pretended not to look, but out of the corner of my eye, I caught it. Her fingers slipped the card into her purse. I didn't say a word, just closed the door behind her. Whatever happened next, she'd have to earn it. 3 months later, I stood barefoot on the concrete floor of my new loft, coffee in one hand, silence in the other. No footsteps overhead, no ticking baseboards, no echo of anyone else's needs bouncing off the walls, just peace. It wasn't huge, 1 bedroom, open kitchen, a view of a downtown parking lot. But I slept better than I had in years. My emergency savings were finally moving up instead of bleeding out. And next week, I'd be starting my first photography class, something I used to talk about and never touch. Then came the Sunday dinner invite. Cautious was putting it lightly. I stared at the text from Mom for 2 hours before replying. Sure, I'll come by for dessert. Low risk, easy exit. When I showed up, it was different. Not warm exactly, but not a firing squad either. Chelsea was already there, sitting at the table in a blazer and slacks, hair tied up. She looked steady. Not the same frantic energy. No tears, no guilt trips. She glanced up, nodded. Hey. We kept it simple. I poured a cup of coffee, sat down at the far end. My parents exchanged glances like they were holding their breath. Chelsea took a bite of pie, then said it just like that. So I started at Jensen Media 2 months ago. I looked up. Marketing assistant? She nodded. Yeah, the same job you told me about. Then she added, without flinching, it's harder than I expected. But it's work. I nodded once. Good. No sarcasm, no backhanded comments. Just that, good, because that's all I needed to say. My mom looked between us like she was waiting for drama that didn't show up. So, she said, trying to sound casual, how's the new place treating you? Quiet, I said, in the best way. My dad cleared his throat. You still doing those night classes or whatever? Photography. Starts next week. He nodded. That's good. It's good to have something for yourself. They asked Chelsea a few questions too. Nothing condescending, just normal. And for once, it didn't feel like anyone was trying to manage the moment. No fake smiles, no forced hugs, just people sitting at a table, acting like adults. Later that night, Dorothy hosted a small get-together at her place. Her backyard twinkled with string lights, and everyone brought a dish. She'd printed out 2 photos and framed them side by side on the mantel. One was my old house. The other was my new loft. When I saw them together like that, I expected to feel bitter, or maybe guilty, but I didn't. I felt free. Dorothy raised a glass. To Jack, for figuring out what he needs and finally deciding that he matters too. People clapped, even my cousins who used to give me hell. I stood there with a cheap beer in hand, not needing to justify a damn thing. For the first time in a long time, I smiled and meant it. The next Saturday, I sat across from Chelsea at the dining table in our parents' house, her laptop open between us, a yellow legal pad to the side, half covered in scribbles and crossed out numbers. She exhaled hard. Okay, rent's due on the 1st. Car payment hits the 5th. Groceries? I've been overspending there. I nodded. You're not feeding a family of 6. Cut the snacks, plan the meals, and quit door dashing everything. She smirked, but wrote it down. You're a real ray of sunshine. Mom and Dad sat quietly on the couch behind us. No lectures, no hovering, just there. Chelsea opened her banking app and turned the screen toward me. I've got $900 in savings now. I raised my eyebrows. Better than I had at your age. You working extra hours. Some weekends. And I stopped buying stupid stuff. No more online shopping at 2 a.m. Smart. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. We went line by line through her bills, her paychecks, her debt. I didn't take over. I didn't judge. I just pointed where things could shift, where she could take more control. Mom finally spoke, voice quiet. I have to admit something. Chelsea and I both looked over. We thought we were helping, she said, but we were hurting both of you. She looked at Chelsea, then back at me. We thought if we pushed hard enough, you'd bend like you always did. Dad still hadn't said a word, but his arm rested behind Mom on the couch, his eyes on the legal pad like it was sacred text. Chelsea tapped her pen nervously. I should have figured it out on my own a long time ago. You are now, I said. That's what matters. She looked up. Do you think I can really pull this off? I shrugged. You already are. Slowly. But yeah, you can. There was a time I'd have said that out of guilt or pressure. Now I said it because it was true. She wasn't trying to skip steps anymore. She was doing the work, and that effort, that counted more than I expected it to. Mom wiped at her eyes. You two, this feels different. It is, I said, Because the rules changed. Dad shifted forward slightly, elbows on knees. Still no words. But I could feel it. That weight he carried. That silence that used to come off like indifference. It didn't feel like that anymore. It felt like something he didn't know how to say. Maybe regret, maybe pride, probably both. Chelsea started organizing her papers. You don't have to help me every week, by the way. I know, I said, but I will until you don't need it. She didn't argue. She just smiled. That's when I realized it wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about clean slates or dramatic endings. It was about movement, direction. And for the first time in a long time, we were finally facing the same way. The last box thudded into the back of Thomas's truck, wedged tight between a folding chair and my old cooler. He slapped the tailgate shut and leaned against it, wiping sweat off his neck with his shirt sleeve. That it? He asked. I looked around. Nothing left in the garage, nothing in the yard. No more tools in the shed. No more future tied to this place. Yeah, I said. That's it. The driveway was quiet, not heavy, not emotional, just still. No drama, no rush to get out. Just done. I stood there a second longer than I needed to. Not because I couldn't let go, because I wanted to feel the shift. Really feel it. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. Light, deliberate, Chelsea. She walked up slow, holding 2 coffees. She offered one without saying anything. I took it. No pity, no tension. Just a simple handoff. Didn't think you'd be here, I said. I figured you might want one last cup, she said, eyes on the truck. Also figured I owed you. I waited. Thanks for giving me the lead, she said. The job. I'm doing okay. I nodded. Good. That's the goal. She looked like she wanted to say more, but didn't. She just sipped her drink, then took a step back. We didn't hug. We didn't swap apologies. There wasn't some big reconciliation. But we were finally standing on equal ground. And for once, that was enough. Thomas climbed into the truck, gave me a quick nod. I tossed the empty coffee cup in the trash bin and walked to the passenger side. As the engine rumbled to life and we pulled away, I didn't look back at the house. Didn't need to. It had already let me go. I pulled out my phone, thumbed a quick message to Dorothy. Done. A second later, her reply buzzed through. Now you start living for you. And for the first time, I believed I would.